What's up, Brew Crew? Opie here. Welcome back to my Brew City Garden on this gorgeous spring morning. It's a little bit chilly though. I had to put my jacket on this morning, but I'm not complaining. It's better than sweating my butt off, which at sometimes this time of year you happen to do. We haven't had that luxury yet, but I'm sure it's coming very soon. But I thought this would be the perfect morning to get some of my warm weather seeds sown in the bales. We're going to put in some cucumbers and some squash and get these things going for the season. Now I just find that these particular plants do better or are just easier to direct sow into the bales instead of trying to start them indoors where there's limited room. The summer squash and the cucumbers, they grow so quickly that you can just plug them right into the bales and they'll just take off like gangbusters. So no need to start them indoors. Easy peasy. Stick them in where you want them, and they'll be off to the races in no time. But anyway, I thought I'd bring you with me to sow my larger seeds into the bales, show you how I do it, and just go over that whole process again. Super easy, and really anybody can do it. So let's step over to the garden and get these sown into our bales. The last several years, I have planted 6 summer squash in my bales. And, you know, it seems like midsummer, we're just absolutely drowning in squash. I mean, to the point that we don't even know what to do with it. And I've still got squash in the freezer from probably 2 years ago that we haven't gotten to yet. So I'm going to reduce the amount of squash that I'm putting in this year. But even so, there's nothing better than a small, fresh squash right off the vine. Slice it up, throw it on the grill or in the saute pan. So I'm definitely going to grow some. This year I'm going to grow some straight neck yellow summer squash. This is a staple. We grow this every year. It's absolutely wonderful. It's easy to grow, super delicious. I'm also going to grow some regular zucchini or courgettes. And this year I'm going to try the patty pan or the scallop squash. So I'm just going to put one, or I'm going to allow one of each to grow this year. So to get these things in, really simple. Just open this package up here. This is the yellow straight neck squash. Again, this stuff is awesome. It's so good. Just gonna let these out. You can see these are larger seeds. Okay, so I'm not gonna use the soil method. I'm just gonna go ahead and push these directly down into the bales. And I'll show you how I do that. Really simple. If you look right here, I'm just going to place the seed right there on the bale and just take my finger and push it right down about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, right about knuckle deep, right about here. And I can feel that moisture level. All right, so once you get into that moisture level, just push it down past that a little ways. Perhaps, you know, the level might be different depending on what area you live in. So drier climates, it might be a little bit deeper. And when it's been raining like it has been here, I could almost set these things on top of the bales and they would germinate. So there's one seed, and I'm going to go ahead and plant 3 seeds all right next to each other. Now, I'm not going to let 3 seeds grow, at least not to maturity. So I'm planting 3 seeds to ensure germination, just in case something gets robbed by a bird or a squirrel. And then once these germinate, which, you know, chances are that at least one of these are going to germinate. If more than one germinates, then I will thin out the weakest and just leave the strongest. Now, as far as spacing goes in your straw bales for squash, you really want no more than 2 squash plants per bale, and you want them spaced probably 1.5 to 2 feet apart, because these squash grow like nothing else in a straw bale. I mean, these things will be just gigantic. I mean, trust me on this. If you grow summer squash in a straw bale, you're going to get just mounds of squash, and the plants are going to get absolutely massive. So that's why I'm kind of reducing the amount of squash that I'm growing this year. Again, I just kind of push that straw over the top a little bit. That's going to kind of close the seeds off to the elements and maybe help hide them for the birds and the squirrels. And again, just a super simple Super simple way of sowing your seeds. Just push them right down into the bales. I mean, what could be easier than that? So I'm gonna go ahead and sow the rest of my squash. It'll take me all of like 30 seconds, and then we're gonna move on to the cucumbers. Cool, so we got our squash planted. Now it's time to move on to the cucumbers. I'm gonna grow 2 different varieties of cucumber this year. I've got the national pickling cucumber and also the Wisconsin SMR, which are just a fantastic pickler. And I really prefer to grow the little picklers over the full-size cucumbers because they tend to be a little bit more crisp and a little bit sweeter. They're a lot easier to carry in a lunchbox. And in reality, these picklers, you can actually kind of let them get fairly large, almost to a full-size type of cucumber, and they're still quite good. So we just prefer these. And if we have a surplus of them, well, then we'll make pickles out of them. So they're really great to eat fresh. But again, if you got tons of them, just make pickles. It just works out perfect. We love these things. So anyway, we're gonna sow these the exact same way as we did the squash. We're just gonna push these in the bales. These are a little bit smaller seed, but I think they're still large enough to where they will do well being pushed into the bales. I've been doing that since I started straw bale gardening, and I always get just an incredible germination rate. So what I wanna do is just place these seeds right down the center, and I'm gonna push these in just like I did the squash and other large seeds, right down to about my knuckle. I just want to feel that. I want to feel that moisture level, all right? And once I'm in that moisture level, we're in a good spot. So they'll come up from there. They'll be just fine. And what I'm going to do is stagger these about 2 inches apart, just like so, right down the center. Push them right in. See how fast this is? It's just so easy. There's no digging. We just put our seeds in, push it down in there. I got 2 in there, no big deal. Again, about every 2 inches. That's how I plant my cucumbers. You don't have to plant your cucumbers that close. It seems to work out fine for me. They'll grow up along this trellis and spread out quite a bit. And there's just enough airflow through here. I don't typically have any problems with mildew or fungus of any sort, so I just plant them tight and we'll get tons and tons of cucumbers. All right, guys, I'm gonna finish putting these guys in and we'll be back. And it should always go without saying, anytime that we're gonna put sow a seed or even a transplant in these bales, you'll want to water them in every time. With straw bale gardening, as far as sowing seeds and transplants, it's very, very similar to using soil. You always want to water your seeds in just to get them off to a good start. You got to get those seeds moist just to soften those coats and rehydrate the seed. And you're really going to increase your germination rate. And it's just good practice. So make sure you're watering your seeds and your transplants in as soon as they go in the bales. Super cool. We got our summer squash sown in the bales. We got our cucumbers sown in the bales. If you wish to grow winter squash and melons, especially if you're in a warmer climate than I am here in Zone 5, this would be a good time to direct sow your melons and your winter squash as well. I'm not going to do that because I've already sown mine indoors because I'm going to transplant mine out into the bales in the sides of the bales. I never direct sow into the sides of the bales. We're going to transplant those in. So make sure you stick around so you can see how that works. Hey guys, thanks again for joining me out here at the Brew City Garden again on this absolutely gorgeous spring day. It's always a pleasure to have you guys here. And of course, if you got any questions at all, just leave them in the comments below. I'll get to them as soon as I can. And hey, let me know what kind of varieties of squash and cucumbers you guys are growing this year. Oh, I'd really love to know. And if there's something I'm missing out on, well, I want to make sure I get them for next year. All right, guys, as always, I want you to have an awesome day. And until next time, we'll see you.